Uncle Mort's North Country by Peter Tinnerswood.
They gave Carter Brandon a week off work, so he thought he'd spend the time taking day trips in his car. He took his Uncle Mort with him. This is what happened on the first day, give or take an incident or two. It was an ancient Ford Zodiac with sad headlamps and limp seat belts. The colour was light blue and cream. There were bubbles of rust on the bonnet.
Shall I sit in the front seat, Carter?
Please yourself.
The sun cowered behind soaring banks of gaunt-cheeked clouds. A blackbird chackered its alarm. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, and the spring was fitful and timid.
Where are we going?
I don't know. We'll go where the fancy takes us, shall we?
Right-o. Wake me up when we get home tonight, will you?
With a buck and a bounce and an apologetic twitch, the old Ford Zodiac set off, and Uncle Mort allowed himself a gentle scowl and settled himself into the musty depths of the back seat. And down below them, the city fidgeted in the fat thighs of the moorland hills. By the time they reached the old toll gate at Wilson's Bar, the wipers were wagging their balding heads at a thin-lipped drizzle, and Uncle Mort was snoring peacefully. The dreams of an old man.
Factory girls, 6 abreast on the pavement, cardboard gauges round their legs, mottled forearms and bold, thirsty eyes. Flat-capped trams with the clatter-clatter of wooden seats reversed at the terminus. The hiss of gaslights. Hungry street corner dogs. Tubs of butter, sharp, sleek sluck of bacon slicer. Barbers with wall eyes and slim packets of requisites.
The car ran out of petrol 2 miles outside the city boundary.
Oi, wake up. Wake up, will you?
What's up? What's to do?
We've run out of petrol.
Oh, aye. Well, it's par for the course, is that, isn't it?
There was a plantation of sorrowful firs and a shallow reservoir with earthen walls. In the lay-by was a mound of winter grit and a stamped-out beer can.
I'd best take a walk and see if I can find a garage.
I'll come with you. We might find a pub as well.
After a while they reached the brow of the hill, and the road squeezed itself round a barren outcrop of gritstone. And there ahead of them was a stone barn, a filling station, a workman's caravan with iron wheels and a crooked chimney, and a pub.
Great Carter champion, a pub. This is what I call a good day out.
The landlord pulled them 2 pints of beer. His neck was scrawned with unshaven stubble, and there were aged boil scars too.
You're the first today.
Oh, aye. Well, looking at this ale you've served up, we'll most likely be the last as well.
The bay window of the bar overlooked the stone barn and the filling station. There was a cobbled yard with elderly chickens and a Fordson tractor with no seat. They sat on a bench with their backs to the window and took a tentative sip of their beer.
It's not bad, if you disregard the taste. Shall we stop for a couple more?
What for? There's plenty of others. And we've got the whole the rest of the day stretching out before us.
I know. That's what can make life so depressing at times.
A stout woman in a dressing gown and perspiring slippers shuffled out of a door marked Private and whispered fiercely to the landlord.
I'm just nipping upstairs for a minute. If you want out else, you'll have to wait. And don't nick nothing while I'm gone.
There's no worth nicking. Bugger off and leave us in peace.
There were clusters of damp, decaying toadstools on the bare floorboards beneath the bay window. Thick layers of dust covered the jar of pickled eggs on the bar. The wind whimpered down the chimney.
You know what, lad?
What?
I've been to this pub before.
Oh, aye?
Aye? Every time I were here, somebody died. The first time I come in here, we was on the way to Blackpool by Shara. The roof started to leak, so we stopped off here, and Gertie Falshaw's cousin died of a seizure.
That must have put a dampener on things.
Not really. It was when we got to Blackpool that the rot set in.
Why?
The sun never stopped shining. Bloody thing.
Carter Brandon turned and looked out of the window. A grey van with buckled wheels brooded forlornly on the forecourt of the filling station. A thin dribble of blue smoke puttered aimlessly from the cobbled yard at the back of the barn.
The second time I was here, the landlord got squashed under a pile of barrels. And on the third occasion, if memory serves me correct, Nellie Watmo's husband from the balls outing got a rabbit bone stuck in his throat and choked to death.
Well, these things happen, don't they?
Carter Brandon looked out of the window once more. The thin dribble of blue smoke from the cobbled yard at the back of the barn had turned into a thick pigtail of acrid black, coiling at the sky.
I think something's alight. Do you think we should call a brigade?
Give over. It'd take up 5 minutes of good supping time, would that? Do you mind if I have a suck of your beer, Matt?
No. Carry on.
The North's gone to the dogs since my days, Carter.
Has it?
Oh, aye. You see, in my days, you'd got the Great Depression. You'd got poverty and misery and despair. You'd got disease. And you where you stood. Down and out and terminally on your knees.
The door marked private opened and the landlord entered the bar. He examined the jar of pickled eggs suspiciously.
Excuse me, but is there a doctor in the house?
Hey, what's that? Speak up, will you? Speak up.
I said, is there a doctor in the house?
Well, not as far as I know, Squire. We're both of us laymen on that score, aren't we, Carter?
Aye.
Oh, what a devil. And the wife's mother's just took a turn for worse, you see. Oh, I suppose I'd best ring for ambulance.
Right, but don't tell them it's serious, or they might think you're showing off.
The landlord nodded gravely and retired behind the door marked private.
The whole trouble, Carter, is that the North's gone soft. In the good old days of my youth, the North stood unique and solid. It hadn't been polluted by the South. They were real people then, Carter. People created in the image of what God intended man to be. Bronchial, surly, unpleasant company and congenitally rude to strangers.